I grew up in a world where I was never supposed to exist. At least, not on paper. My parents, Rosa and Miguel, came to the United States from Honduras when they were just teenagers. They didn't come chasing a dream. They came running from nightmares, violence, poverty, and the kind of danger that eats you alive if you stay too long. They crossed the border with a backpack between them and nothing else. For years, they worked jobs no one else wanted. My dad picked fruit in fields where the sun burned so hot it left blisters on his skin. He made barely enough to feed himself, let alone a family. My mom cleaned houses for families who had so much that they didn't even notice her. They would smile politely but never look her in the eye. Sometimes they'd talk about her in English, thinking she didn't understand. She understood every word. We lived in a tiny, one-bedroom apartment with peeling paint and mold creeping up the bathroom walls. When it rained, water leaked onto the floor, and we put down pots and pans to catch it. Cockroaches crawled through the kitchen cabinets at night. There was no air conditioning in the summer and no heat in the winter. But to my parents, it was still better than where they came from. Still, the hardest part wasn't the poverty. It was the fear. Every knock on the door made my mom freeze. Every police siren outside made my dad's shoulders tense. They taught me, at 6 years old, how to hide under the bed if immigration ever came. Imagine being a little kid and knowing how to stay silent so your family wouldn't be torn apart. That was my normal. School didn't make things easier. Other kids made fun of me for wearing the same shoes every year, even when they had holes in the soles. Teachers asked why my parents never came to conferences. I didn't know how to answer. How could I tell them my parents were too scared to walk into a building where someone might ask for ID? I remember once, when I was about 10, I begged my mom for a new backpack because mine was ripped and held together with tape. She looked at me with tears in her eyes and said, "Maybe next year." That was her way of saying there was no money. I carried that taped-up backpack until it completely fell apart. When my little brother Diego was 12, he got very sick. His fever wouldn't break, and my parents argued for days about what to do. They didn't want to go to the hospital. No insurance, no papers, no safety. By the time they finally gave in, it was almost too late. He survived, but the hospital bill was more than my dad made in an entire year. He started working double shifts at a factory, sometimes 14 hours a day, just to pay it off. His back has never been the same since. People treated us like we were less than human. At the grocery store, strangers would tell my mom to go back to her country. At school, kids would say, "My parents pay taxes for your free food." They didn't. See the nights my mom went without eating so Diego and I could share a plate of rice. They didn't see my dad walking home at midnight, clothes drenched in sweat from work, because we couldn't afford a car. They didn't see the exhaustion, the desperation, the love. When I turned 16, everything collapsed. Immigration raided my dad's factory. He didn't come home that night. We waited for hours until my mom got the call. He had been detained. I'll never forget her face when she heard the words. Her hand shook so badly she dropped the phone. My brother cried until he couldn't breathe. I tried to be strong, but inside, I felt like my world had been ripped apart. 2 months later, my dad was deported. No goodbyes, no chance to fight. Just gone. My mom fell into depression. Diego stopped caring about school. And me? I started working nights at a diner to help pay rent. I stopped being a kid, and the world kept on treating us like criminals. People saw us as illegals, as if that was our whole identity. They didn't see the sacrifices. They didn't see the love. They didn't see the way my mom still whispered prayers over us every night, begging God to keep us safe in a country that never wanted us. Even now, as an adult, I carry those years with me. I carry the memory of my dad waving at me through a glass partition before he was sent away. I carry the sound of my mom crying herself to sleep. I carry the shame of classmates laughing at my broken shoes. I carry the hunger, the fear, the hiding. Sometimes I ask myself if my parents made the right choice. Was the chance to live here worth the pain we went through? But then I think of what they left behind, and I realize they did the only thing they could. We lived in the shadows. We loved in the shadows. And we lost in the shadows. And no matter how much time passes, I know I'll never forget what it feels like to be a stranger in the only place I've ever called home.